And I'm actually just kind of not, I've just had a look at this, I'm not stoked with the thickness of this thing. It kind of looks a bit inconsistent. Pulled across on the Y a bit. Maybe just down. Just kind of feel... No, actually what I'll do is just want to get the normal angle between these points. Sorry, once again, this is just me being very pedantic. And I'm just going to scale this in along the Y. There we go. I think that's just a little bit more even. I think that looks nicer. It just looked a little bit thin to me before. Okay, so we don't really have 24 verts for this circle anymore. What? This is made up of 18. Alright, let's see how this works. Let's go ahead and turn off clipping again for a second. Let's bring in a circle. Let's just see what 24 verts does for us here. Going to turn off my subdiv so I've got a better read of how it looks. And I think 24 might work. I'm just going to rotate this just so that this middle vertex here is more in line with this middle vertex over here. So only very subtle. And I'm going to use my 3D cursor to scale from that center point. Just shift it again. And I think that's looking pretty good. And we can delete the bottom set of vertices here, so that should leave us with 12. Okay, we've got 13. We've got an odd amount, but I think that should be fine in all honesty. Let's bring this down to about there. And this down to about there. And we'll just fill that edge in. I think that looks okay. And also, once again, this is not where it looks like on the reference. It is smack bang in the middle. So let's just drag that out, and that's why we turned off clipping, because you'll notice we have clipping on, can't move it. So with that off, oops. And for the time being, we're just going to make that one big nasty n-gon, because I can't be bothered sorting out all the rest of the topology. Let's grab that, bring it down. And on the normal, I'm going to scale this along the Y just to bring out the shape of it. Oops, didn't select both of them. Bring that down. And then what's sort of going on here? I think it just sort of runs up, and I think I might be missing a bit of the angle to it. No, it's definitely lying flat to the rest of it. I think that's supposed to be jutting out. I think based on the reference here, I'd say that's correct. Yeah, okay. That's fine. And then I think this sort of just extrudes inwards. I think this just goes, well, apart from this bottom part here. But I'm pretty sure this will just end up extruding back into pretty much this area back here that we carved out. So I'm just going to go there. And I think the back side of it does that as well. So I'm just going to go E, scale 0 to the X, bring it to the back there. Oops. Fill that face in. I think from the back it's just sort of a block. Yeah, okay, so we can cut that into size later on. And then we've sort of got one of these bevel situations again, so let's just bring that down. I'll bring that down to about there. And we're actually going to get the same shape on the other side, I've just realised. Because that needs to continue up the back, so let's just extrude that along to try to keep that as perpendicular as possible, and do the same for this one and line it up to the corner. And position-wise, it's getting hard to read what's going on. That should be in the right spot. But it looks very off-kilter compared to the rest of it. Because, yeah, no, I understand what's going on. Because this is actually... this is just getting a bit confusing to read, because these are the front edges, and that's the back. And this whole thing is a bit curved, I believe. So, okay. These are the back faces. So I think this needs to be brought out more. If we sort of bring that back. To be more there, I think, maybe. If we add that face in, it might be a bit easier to see. Yeah, I think this has a bit more curvature to it. I don't think this bottom part is entirely flat. I think this will actually start to sort of segment out a bit. So we can definitely start to accommodate for that. Because, yeah, I think that's why this is so confusing to read at the moment. So I'm going to do an inset on this, and the only reason I'm going to do this is because when I add in more topology, I don't want to cut any more loops into the circle that we've created. So I'm going to throw this in, and actually, hang on, I'm just going to dissolve this. Just have a look at the back. Okay, I think this pretty well actually comes the whole way. I think this should be lined up here, roughly. Well, that makes it very slim, but I think that's where that should be sitting. I actually need to go forward a bit more. Actually, I'm just going to grab both of them. Drag those forward. I think that will make a little bit more sense once we add some topology in here. Because then... yeah, I think... okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the top vertex here as the active vertex and snap it into there. It gives a bit of a strange profile. And then I'm actually going to, because I'll just bring it in a bit because I think it's supposed to be curved. And then for this, I'm just going to use the normal. No, I'm not. That's a bad idea. I'm going to use the global. Pull that out just a smidge. And I might actually pull this back just a little bit, just a smidge, just so it's not directly under. Maybe more like that. Right. And we can afford to play around with a little bit more topology here because this is all just going to resolve into a big n-gon here. We're not really going to clean it up because it's a perfectly flat face, so there's no need to clean up all the topology and have perfect quads the whole way through there. So we'll do that. Okay, yeah, this is definitely making more sense with the curvature. So space and relax. And I'm just going to space all these ones as well. Oops, space. Don't really need to worry about relaxing those ones. How does that? Because it definitely takes more out towards here. But okay, let's adjust this a bit more. So let's grab these back ones. Just going to pull these out just a little bit more, just to try to align it better with that bottom edge. I think just lining these up with the outer edge. Oops. I think that starts to make a bit more sense. I think by the time it reaches here, I think it might almost be perfectly in line with it. Okay, maybe not perfectly in line, but definitely more there, I'm going to say. So to just sort of help with that, I'm just going to do a G stretch, so that just makes it perfectly flat going into the back part there. Get a bit of curvature. I think that works. Can't say for certain, but I think that makes sense. I've got... I don't really know. I've got no idea, in all honesty, but it looks like it works. I'll fill that in. And just subdivide this and join this together. Just to clean that up. Okay, so that incorporates the side, and I need to crease this up, and I'm going to need to take a break from this because I can tell that I'm getting a bit too tired to be thinking about the topology. I think that looks pretty nice. It could probably do with maybe just a little bit of cleanup, but I think for the most part it's okay, and I'm pretty sure we have to come back and bevel it as well because it's got that rounded section. Just need to drag it down a bit. I just want to have a test. See how that might come out. Look better without the bevels. Without the bevels, without the creases. Yeah, okay, I think that should work nicely, and we just need to change the creasing level on that, just so it's not so abrupt. Yeah, okay, I think that looks nice. We can just adjust some of the creasing in there. Alright, so that's going to be the solution for it. But for now, I'm just going to undo that and just go back to having, oops, might just take it back, lower it. No, okay, that's fine. All right, I'm going to come back to that tomorrow, which will be just a few seconds in the video. Okay, so let's just go and tweak this up. So what I'm thinking is I don't really like what I had last night. So I'm going to change this, and instead of, so I've got a bit of weird curvature going on through here at the moment, so I'm just actually going to drag this vertex to match at the last here. And then around this center point, I'm just going to grab that, and we're going to use the G-stretch operation, just flatten that out. And I think that looks a lot nicer, and I don't really like the way that this creases. I'm going to make that 0.33 instead. And we can go ahead and sort of just push. Turn the subdivision off for a second. Push this in. Just pushing that in an arbitrary amount for the time being. And we can just relax that and relax the outside as well. Probably do a relax operation on this. And we can add some creasing to these. And I just want to do just a little bit of touch up here. So I'm going to drag this face down just to make this edge just a little bit better. And we can probably drag all of that out just a little bit more, and then just do some manual adjustment. On these ones here, just to make a nice curve. And then just relax that. Cool, so I think that looks nice. I also noticed something from last night. So go ahead and just want to select all these outer edges that we filled in, or sorry, outer faces that we filled in. I noticed that I was modeling to the completely wrong area. This outer edge here that we have creased should actually be lined up with the outermost edge in there. So it's okay, it's a pretty easy fix. All we're going to do is we're just going to get the center point for here, just put our cursor to selected, and then we can just select this middle face, Control and plus to select the other edges around it, and we're just going to scale from that origin point until it meets the entire limit. So like when I say the entire limit, I'm just looking at this outer edge here. And go back to my bounding box where I'm just going to get rid of that edge. We're going to select normal, and we're going to select this middle edge here because this will give us the normal direction we need to move on. We'll add the orientation, Control plus again. And actually, we don't want to move everything, we just want to move these top faces that are responsible for the more circular aspects of the design. And drag that down. Cool. Now, you'll notice we're sort of getting a bit of clipping going on between the outer circle and the inner circle here. And it's probably because, well, we added a new circle, so it's not going to be an exact one-to-one of the inner and outer elements. But another part that's not really helping is the fact that we have mismatched vertices on each one, which is something we identified earlier. I said it wasn't going to be a big problem, and that still stands true. So I believe we have 13 on the inside here. And then if I look on the outside, so I'm not going to count these last two for the outside count because it goes more straight by that stage and we're just worried about the curved areas. So I'm just going to select between those points. So we've got 15 verts in there. Okay. And what did I say? 13 in here? Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do an edge slide, bring this down to make this bottom one. And then I'm just going to try to replace that best I can, just eyeball it. Be around there. So now we should have 14, yep. And then I'll just add another loop into the top to make 15. Oops, pressed the wrong thing. I want to be in edge select mode. Select the inner and outer loops, space those out and relax them. Cool, so that's pretty close. It's still seeing a little bit of mismatch, but that's okay. So what we can do is I might just drag this up just so that these two are a little bit more aligned because those two are over there. Just select the inner side and I'm pretty sure we have this extruded back in as well. So just for the sake of consistency, I'm just going to bring that up a bit as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that, and we'll select that. Space, and relax. I didn't really adjust it exactly the way I wanted, but that's all right. In that case, what we might do, grab this middle edge, and I'm just going to drag this back. Just do an edge slide to sort of have it match up more in the middle, and then we'll just do this in 2 segments instead. So we'll select the front and back parts, do space, relax, and then we'll do the same for here. Select the middle and back parts, space, relax. Now we should have something that's just a little bit nicer. Oops. And I might even just go ahead, I might just set my 3D cursor to be in here. 3D cursor, and using that Y normal again, I'm just going to scale these up a bit. And I might just move it across just a touch on the X. So I'm still seeing a bit of mismatch here, so that works, that works. Double check, so what, we've got 9 vertices there, and we've got 8 vertices there. Okay, so we're missing a vertice, that's why we're seeing that mismatch. So I'm just going to go between there, between here, space, relax. There we go, that's better. Alright. So, sorry about that, that was a bit of a mess around, but yeah, so we just needed to scale this back up, and then all we were doing, we're just trying to match up the amount of vertices on the inner and outer parts of this, and it's a little bit inconsistent in the way that it's matching up here, in all honesty, but probably just tweak it a little bit more, just to sort of close that gap up. Just make it a little bit less obvious. just scale it in on the X, just a fraction. Yeah, so it's not perfect, but I'm okay with that. So yeah, I made the mistake of trying to model this beveled edge in, where what we're going to do is we're just going to actually bevel from this outer point, and then it should all look nice. So we can add in the faces that we've just gone ahead and removed. I'm just going to remove that edge, use the globals again, go to our bounding box and extrude, scale X 0, and I'll snap our vertices to the inside here, which works out nicely. And then we can do the same for the bottom parts here, so EGX, and oops, and snap to there, fill in a face, fill in a face. I've done the wrong vertice there. Do that. Then when we come to this side, and we can go ahead and bevel this. And we can just adjust some of our creasing on this. Have a look at that. It's not too bad. I just want to do an edge slide on these, just so that they're sitting more in line. Actually, no. Screw doing an edge slide. Got an easier way. Let's select this, and we'll use our knife tool, and we'll use K and then C to make a straight cut. Like there. C to make it a straight cut. Cut the whole way down. And then we can just simply dissolve. Actually, no. Yeah, we'll do an edge slide. And then we'll just merge by distance. Always try not to call it merge by doubles because it's not called that anymore. Nice, that looks good. Okay. And then for the bottom here, we can go ahead and do what I was discussing last night. So I'm just going to bring that down a smidge, and we can do this bevel. Oops. And I might go with profile of 2. Those. Yeah, nice. Very good. I just want to see if we sort of space this out, does it make the profile of that creased edge look just a little bit nicer? Yeah, I think that works a bit better. Just makes it a little bit more consistent along there. And then we can just go ahead and fill in these faces. Actually, I wonder, should we snap this to... No, definitely not. So we can go ahead, let's just fill in a big ol' N-gon here for the time being. Oops. Let's just do that. And we can start to cut in some topology along here. Oops. Pressing all the wrong things. Crease that. Cut that in, and then I'll just put that there, and I'm actually going to then just subdivide this edge and do that instead. Should just make that a little bit less tense on the side. Yep, that looks nice, and we can just crease that up as well. Nicely done, and do something similar here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, so let's just add in 4 at the back here. And I'll just go cut these in one by one. Cool, that's looking pretty good. We're just missing an edge at the back there, so we've got a big old n-gon. And we've got a pole there. We might be able to resolve that, but we'll just wait and see. We'll come back to that later. I don't want to get too caught up on the more pedantic parts of this just yet. As I say that, I'm looking how I can flatten this out, but I think we'll just ignore that for the time being. Cool. So let's just add a little bit more detail to this, and let's do this circular component in the middle here. So I'm just going to turn my subdiv off to make everything easier to work with. Okay, cursor to selected. Actually, is that going to be the easiest way to do this? Let's go between those points, or just between these points. Let's go between there. We'll manually adjust it anyway. And so we'll do this as a separate mesh. We'll just bring in a circle, and let's change our vertices up to 42. A bit large, but be alright. Rotate this 90 degrees along the Y, and I'll show you why we're using 42 in a second. Probably seems a bit arbitrary. Just going to hide the helmet so I don't need to worry about so many different wireframes, and I'm just going to try to line this up best I can. It actually looks pretty good. First try is a bit lucky. Alright, and let's try to rotate this just a bit. Cool, and so I'll show you why I just rotated that. So we're trying to get some points to align on these little bits here. Okay, so we want a vertice roughly at the start of each of those. So if I just rotate this a bit, you know, it doesn't have to be exact, but that gives us roughly a vertice at each one of those points. So just get rid of my grease pencil there. And what I'm going to do is just with face snapping selected and bringing in the helmet again, I'm just going to go G, X, hold down Control, snap to the face just to make sure I didn't accidentally move it off of the face of the helmet there. Cool, so I'm just going to fill in the face. We're going to have a nice big old nasty n-gon. Going to extrude this up to the base of the detail we're modeling. And then I'm going to extrude it again the whole way out. Once again, I can see that there's a bevel there, so we can worry about the bevel in a second. I'm just going to hide the helmet mesh again because there's just a lot of wireframes. And we can do a little bit of detailing here. So I'm just going to cut that in. Cut 2 loops in between. Nope, need to recalculate our normals. 2 loops in between. I'm just going to scale in on everything but the X. And just scale in like that. That should be alright, I think. And we don't need that back face, so we can just delete that. And I'm just going to start to crease this up preemptively. Just going to shade smooth. Chuck on a subdivision surface. And that looks terrible. And then just with this outer edge, oops, just go ahead and do this bevel. Just want to do one segment. Just to bring that in. Cool. Now we can do an inset on this face here, and we just want to insert it to align with the curves around here, just to make the modeling easier. We'll insert that just to around there. And we'll just do another one. This one's more arbitrary. This is just to add a support loop. Let's get rid of the crease on that one because we don't need it. Cool. So now we have this row of faces, that row of faces, this one, and that one. So that's roughly the detail that we're looking for. So we can just delete the faces there. We could have done this with the mirror modifier, no doubt. But honestly, the amount of time that we'd save is kind of negligible. It's not going to be too much of a hassle to do this twice. Just need to change my snapping back to vertex. I'm just going to, actually, talking about negligible time saves, let's do it on both sides here. Extrude GX, snap down to these verts. And we can start to build in the faces. I'm just going to turn off that subdivision surface because it's making everything just slog along. That has not gone to the correct position at all, but we can adjust that. Why has it done that? GX here. I must have hit the wrong vertice before. Okay, that's better. And then we'll need to select these ones, extrude GX, snap these in. Hopefully I've selected the right one that time. Actually, sorry, we want to select these edges, extrude those, and snap those down to these vertices here. Fill in those faces. And then we can just merge at last for these. Merge last. Merge last, and then that gives us the final 4 faces that we need to fill in. And then just some very basic creasing work to fill in these areas. Nice. So that looks pretty good. I'm just going to add in a little bit of fall off to the inside parts here. And so what I mean by that is, I'm just going to select these inner faces here. Actually, easy way to do it. Just go ahead and delete these faces. I'll show you why in a second. Select these, and then we'll do an inset. And with the inset, we'll press B to do it to the bounds. And we'll just bring it in just a smidge. Just like that. And then we'll dissolve these edges. And then we can just do an edge slide on these edges, which will break the form of the circle just a little bit, but we haven't done a lot of change there. We'll just merge by distance. You don't have to do this. I just kind of like to have a little bit more fall off in these parts of the design, and we'll just space those out. And then to fill in all of the faces that we got rid of, we can just select those, loop tools, and use the bridge operation just to save time with smashing the F key. Cool. So that looks pretty nice. And we can just bring in the rest of the mesh, and we can Control J to add that in. And that just gives us a little bit more detail. And while we're doing detail, what we're actually going to do is we can add in these bolts here as well, because there's very rudimentary bits of detail. So let's add in a circle. We don't want 42. Let's do 24. I feel like that should be enough, but not too much. So just roughly meet the shape of it. And what we'll do is we'll extrude this up and out. So we'll go to the top of it. And I can see two things here. It's a little bit more narrow at the start, so we'll just scale in on everything but the X. Bring that in. And once again, there's a bevel at the top of this. Oops. No, haven't filled in the face. And the normals are facing the wrong way. There we go, now we can bevel. Is the scale okay on this thing? Oh, okay, yeah, that's why the bevel looked weird. Gonna apply the scale. That's better. Cool, that gives us the detail for the bolt. And just cheap and nasty, just do an inset to give some support loops, and we're just going to crease all those up, and we don't have a face at the back. Cool. Smooth that. And I'm actually not going to join this in. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do it correctly this time. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate this. Alt R to reset the rotation of it. I'm just going to call this bolt. And I'm just going to put the origin back to the center and selection to cursor. So I'm just going to keep this on hand. I'm actually just going to make a new collection to make it easier. So we'll just call it bolts. And we'll just bring this in over here. And I'm going to select the one that we've got on the, placed on the helmet at the moment. Shift and right click the one that we've duplicated. Control L and link object data. And this is going to help with the UVing of everything. So you'll notice I tab into edit mode on this and scale this one, or make any effects to it. It also affects the other one. So what we'll do later on is that when we go ahead and place the rest of these, which we should actually probably use Alt D, because then it does that object linking automatically. Then we only need to worry about UVing at once. It doesn't take up as much texel density on our scene, and it all just sort of works. And I'm just keeping that master one there, just so that we only need to UV that one. And so I'm just going to go Alt D and just place this over there.